In case you haven't noticed, we're living in a mental health crisis of epic proportions. And this just happens to be one of the most powerful ways that psychedelics like psilocybin mushrooms can help us. According to researcher Dr. James Fadiman, a reduction of depression and anxiety is one of the most common effects of microdosing. However, before we go deeper into how microdosing can help with anxiety and depression, take a second to like and subscribe. The psychedelic space is changing really fast. There are tons of new laws and initiatives happening, and this will dramatically impact your access to these life-changing medicines. Okay, so first let's zoom out so we can see the bigger picture. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, anxiety affects nearly 20% of the US population. That is 1 in 5 people. Major depressive disorder affects another 18 million, 7% of the population. That is a lot of people who are not feeling so good about themselves or about life. So what are people doing about it? Unfortunately, not much. In fact, only 36.9% of people seek some sort of approved treatment. A big part of that is because the treatment, pharmaceutical drugs loaded with nasty side effects, is often worse than the condition. And new studies show that pharmaceutical antidepressants, otherwise known as SSRIs, are barely more effective than placebo. So what about the other 63.1% of people who don't seek treatment? Let's take a closer look at how mushrooms can help us rediscover a viable path to healing and wholeness. With a condition like anxiety or depression, it can be really easy to get stuck inside a mental vortex, with the same thoughts and emotions spinning around and around and around. Legitimate neurological imbalances aside, these repetitive thoughts are what we often label as depression and anxiety. The psychological word for this is rumination. And this is why microdoses of psilocybin help so much, because they break up the habitual and repetitive thought patterns that cause us to feel stuck. Psilocybin mushrooms create new patterns of brain activity. They stimulate new neural connections, and as a result, they open us up to new thoughts and different emotions. So how does microdosing work? Well, in daily life, we have a default mode that we use to engage with the world, and it is made of several interconnected areas in the brain. Neuroscientists call this the default mode network, or DMN. This is your brain's network of habits, thought patterns, and unconscious beliefs. New studies show that when the DMN is overactive, rumination and repetitive thought loops ramp up. Most conventional pharmaceuticals numb difficult emotions. And 2 different neuroimaging studies showed direct and compelling evidence of how psychedelics like psilocybin lower activity of the DMN. They turn down the volume of the thought patterns at the source of depression. With time, microdosing allows you to choose new thoughts, new emotions, and new behaviors. It can give you the space to restore mental and emotional balance. Best-selling author Michael Pollan used a metaphor of the ski tracks. Our mind often gets stuck in deep ruts of old ski tracks. We think the same thoughts, repeat the same actions, and can't see solutions to our problems. Psychedelic medicines give your mind a fresh layer of snow, powder. This gives you the freedom to go in new directions and create new, more positive tracks in your brain. At this point in time, there are basically no clinical studies on microdosing and depression. However, there is compelling data. Dr. James Fadiman has collected self-reported microdosing data for over 10 years. And according to him, the most common benefits of microdosing were reduced symptoms of depression and anxiety. 2 recent studies published in the prestigious science journal Nature showed individuals microdosing psilocybin had reduced measures of anxiety and depression and increased feelings of motivation and well-being. In one study, individuals who microdosed psilocybin reported significant reductions in symptoms of depression and anxiety, along with increased feelings of well-being and connectedness. Another study found that psilocybin microdosing produced rapid and significant reductions in symptoms of anxiety and depression, with effects lasting up to 4 weeks. What about microdosing psilocybin for PTSD? Psilocybin microdosing may also have promise in treating symptoms of PTSD. Most of the research to date has focused on macrodoses, so there are still a lot of questions as to how effective microdosing might be for PTSD. However, in some of the studies that have been done, people who microdosed psilocybin reported significant reductions in symptoms such as intrusive thoughts and hyperarousal, along with increased feelings of well-being and emotional regulation. All of this points to potential therapeutic benefits for individuals with PTSD. So what are some of the risks of microdosing with psilocybin? While there is no definitive clinical data, microdosing appears to have a few risks. However, in cases of serious mental illness, microdosing could have unpredictable and adverse side effects. We do not recommend microdosing if you have a history of schizophrenia, psychosis, bipolar disorder, or severe anxiety. There can be complications if you are currently on SSRIs or other psychiatric medications, so please consult your doctor or another health professional before microdosing. So that's a brief overview of what we know about psilocybin mushrooms for anxiety and depression. If you'd like to cultivate your own supply of psilocybin mushrooms, you can check out Third Wave's Mushroom Grow Kit. It comes with everything you need except the spores, pre-sterilized and ready to use right out of the box. You also get a step-by-step video course walking you through the entire process. Just go to the link in the description below for all the details. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The psychedelic space is evolving every day, and we have a ton of amazing content that's coming out, and subscribing is the best way to keep up to date with all of that great content.